I never imagined that a single question could unravel everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, and even myself. My name is Lauren, I'm 31 years old, and for 8 years I believed my marriage to Daniel was unshakable. He was patient, steady, the kind of man who never raised his voice or made scenes, and I always thought that was our secret. I thought that no matter what, our bond was strong enough to survive any storm. I was wrong. Dead wrong. It started innocently enough. A casual night at a friend's house. Drinks, laughter, and conversations drifting from work to travel to memories we had shared over the years. Daniel wasn't particularly fond of parties, but he came anyway because he knew I loved them. I remember watching him from across the room, leaning against the kitchen counter, observing everyone with that quiet smile I had fallen in love with years ago. That calm demeanor of his had always reassured me, until that night. We were all laughing over some old stories when someone, trying to be playful, asked a question about past relationships. They said something about secrets, trust, and the little things people hide from each other. I laughed nervously, brushing it off. But before I knew it, the conversation shifted, and suddenly someone asked, "Lauren, have you ever been with anyone while with Daniel?" I froze. Not because the question was shocking, but because I had the fleeting thought that the wrong words now could change everything. And then I heard myself say it. My voice slightly trembling, my hands tightening around the glass in front of me, I said, "Well, yes. There was one time." The room went silent for a fraction of a second before laughter bubbled up around me, a nervous, awkward attempt to ease tension. But I noticed Daniel's expression change immediately. His eyes went wide, his jaw stiffened, and for the first time in years I saw him pause, the calm mask slipping just slightly. I tried to smile, to make it a joke, but the words had already landed, heavier than I ever intended. As the night went on, Daniel didn't say much. He wasn't angry, not in the explosive, dramatic way I had once feared, but there was a distance I couldn't ignore. Every laugh I forced, every casual remark I made, seemed to hang awkwardly in the air. He followed me around the room, nodding, smiling just enough to appear normal, but it wasn't him. That quiet, steady man I had trusted implicitly was now somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't reach. I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was just a party, just a silly question, just one story. But then, on the ride home, the tension that I had ignored all evening became tangible. The silence between us felt thick, heavy, unmovable. I attempted small talk, joking about the food, about some of the ridiculous stories that had been shared, but Daniel only responded in monosyllables, his focus locked on the road ahead. I could feel the weight of his stare in the rearview mirror, though he wasn't looking at me. Finally, unable to bear the quiet any longer, I asked, a little too sharply, "Daniel, are you seriously upset about that question?" It was just one moment, one thing in the past. He exhaled slowly, still not looking at me, and said softly, but with a firmness that made my chest tighten, "Lauren, it's not just the question. It's everything it represents." I blinked, caught off guard. "Everything it represents?" I echoed, my voice trembling despite my attempts to stay composed. "Yes," he said. "It's the trust, the honesty, the respect. And when you say something like that, even jokingly, it's not just a joke to me. It cuts deeper than you realize." I wanted to argue, to laugh it off, to convince him that I was still the same person he had fallen in love with. But as I looked at him, sitting silently behind the wheel, I realized that this wasn't about anger. It was about a boundary I had crossed, a line I hadn't seen until now, and a side of him I had never truly understood. That calm exterior I had always admired wasn't weakness. It was patience, restraint, and a quiet expectation that he would be respected, not tested. By the time we arrived home, the air between us had shifted irrevocably. He didn't speak as he stepped out of the car. He walked past me to the door with a solemnity that made my heart pound in a way I hadn't experienced in years. I wanted to follow, to reach out, to explain, but something stopped me. Something told me that this time, it wasn't about a joke, it wasn't about me, and it wasn't something that could be undone by words alone. Inside, I tried to convince myself that he would come around, that tomorrow would be different, that he would look at me and the bond we had shared for years and see that I hadn't meant to hurt him. But even in the quiet of our apartment, the absence of his presence felt like a loud proclamation. That one question, one moment, had shifted the balance of our lives forever. For days I tried to make sense of it. I retraced every conversation, every glance, every joke I had made over the years. Could it be that all those little things I thought were harmless had been quietly building resentment? That what I had dismissed as playful teasing had been stacking into a silent pile of hurt I hadn't seen? Every memory felt heavier, more loaded, as if the past itself had conspired to bring us to this breaking point. And then I remembered a lesson I had ignored for far too long. Respect is fragile. It's not something you can demand, not something that survives only on love or routine. It must be nurtured, protected, and never taken for granted. I had thought our years together had built a shield strong enough to withstand anything. But that one simple question had cracked it wide open, revealing just how delicate the structure truly was. By the end of that week, Daniel had made his choice. Not in anger, not in haste, but in quiet, deliberate clarity. He told me gently but firmly that our marriage could no longer continue. That the trust we had relied on, the foundation we had assumed unshakable, was now fractured beyond repair. I wanted to protest, to beg, to plead, but the words caught in my throat. I had known, deep down, that the moment had arrived where the consequences of my actions, past and present, were unavoidable. Sitting alone in our empty apartment, scrolling through memories of trips, late-night talks, and laughter I had once taken for granted, I realized the gravity of that one question. It wasn't just a question, it was a mirror reflecting all the small, careless things I had done, the ways I had underestimated the quiet strength of the man I loved, and the price of thinking some bonds were unbreakable. I stared at the photograph of us on our first anniversary, Daniel's arm around my shoulder, both of us smiling as if the world belonged to us. I thought about how easily a single question had dismantled years of trust, how quickly the laughter of a room could turn into a silence more powerful than any argument, and how the calmest, quietest man could be the one with the most resolute strength. Before I knew it, I was left with a simple, painful truth. One question had changed everything. And now there was no turning back. The life I thought I had, the marriage I believed was safe, the man I had taken for granted, all gone in a heartbeat, leaving me to face the consequences of my own words, and the unshakable, quiet strength of the man I had underestimated.